Now, the point is, these acharyas concentrated so much in enhancing poetry. At the end of the day, when I look at these people who have written, how much efforts they have put. So, Avinpal has the name, the milk of the cow. Govardhanam means the one that nourishes the Gokulam. So, Krishna said, the name is Govardhanam. For now, at least we should add some meaning to it by thanking the mountain. Yeah. For example, the person, you have called your grandson Vishwamitra. Somehow, he fights with everyone. One day you will tell your grandson, at least for your name's sake, have one friend. Forget the world. Vishwasya mitraha Vishwamitraha. Have at least one mitra. So for name's sake we say, right? So Vedanta Desika uses that word. Govardhana prakashinya Govardhana samakhyaya samakshepi girerasya samakshepi kshamastuti. Poetry is, I don't know how he constructed all this. Now, one more poetic beauty I will say and then continue that Govardhana thing. This is a verse of 32 letters. What chandas is this? Anushtup chandas. So first line will have how many aksharams? 16. 8 plus 8, 16. 8 plus 8, 16. 4 padas. 2 padas in the first line. 2 padas in the second line. 8 plus 8, 16. Second line, 8 plus 8, 16. Now, I will not mention the letters, just for your sake. You have to imagine. I know it's 7:51 in the morning, I'm asking you to imagine, but you have to do that. We have no other choice. Let us assign a number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 aksharas. Now, same thing in the second line. What will it be? 17, 18, 19 till 32. Correct? Now, all these numbers are aksharams. There is a letter there. I am not using that letter, just for your understanding. Now, draw a line. First letter of the first line. Second letter of the second line. Third letter of the first line. Fourth letter of the second line. You are able to get? Fifth letter of the first line. Sixth letter of the second line. Correct? When you do this, you will get the first line again. Are you able to understand? Now I have to fill aksharas there. Deva, sthanam, ivendhanam. I have to fill the aksharas. First you have to understand the pattern. 1, 2, 3. See, when I go down, it means the second line's 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You will get the first line again. Now do the reverse. First letter of the second line and second letter of the first line. 1, 2, 3, 4. You will get the second line. So how is the pattern? If you draw it instead of lines, if you put a curve, it will be like this. This is as if the urine of a cow, how much they have observed, when the cow urinates, it will not urinate in a straight line, point A to point B. It will not draw a line. When the cow urinates, if it were let free, it will walk in such a way, it will walk in a certain fashion. The mutram, the urine, will fall in a certain pattern. So this bandham is called Gomutrika bandham. Pattern in Sanskrit poetry based on the urine flow of a cow. Earlier we asked, right, are we compassionate towards animals? Earlier Kurabandham, horseshoe. Now it is Gomutrika bandham. What do we do after this? We should not eat that animal. Biggest compassion is after describing this, we eat that animal. We can eat the cow, but not the dog. That's another thing, right? So your compassion is only for the dogs, not for the cows. This is selective compassion. Now, this is called Gomutrika bandham. So he says, Devasthanam ivendhanam parayanam avaritam govardhanam avahyenam narayanam ivagatam. That is the verse. Now, when you do this, you will get the same bandham. If I were to tell you the same pattern in Sanskrit, telling Devasthana, it will be very confusing. So I told you the bandham. This is called Gomutrika bandham. So that is the greatness of Vedanta Desika. I can keep on and on and on about this great Acharya Varya. Now, after composing, he has composed roughly about 100 verses in different imagery patterns. Chitra Kavyam in this particular sarga, I have described 4 or 5, if you remember. The rest of it, homework. You read. Now, now, as he completes this particular sarga, he says in the sarga, Iti kathayati Krishne gopavriddha nidhanyuhu sharanam asharananam shadvala shyamalangam pulakita vanamalam pushpa kinjalka jalaihi purusham achala shringe pundarikaya taksham. This is the way he concludes, kind of concludes. What he says is, I pay my obeisance to that Mahalakshmi who is now adorning the chest of Vishnu and so on. What he essentially says is, with this shloka, I complete my Chitra Kavyam. Why? He says, amongst the Sanskrit poets in those days, if you are a Chitra Kavi, you were not given very high importance. Because that person is using lot of kanak, less of poetic beauty, because your concentration is fixed on getting a pattern, not to come with poetry. You're able to get, even in Karnataka Sangeetam, if a person does a lot of mathematical positioning of swaras, he is very good for the rhythm, for the layam. The mridangam artist will say, Bale, Sabash. But critics of Carnatic music will not treat that music great. They say, Ore kanaka podrar. So what will happen when you're concerned only about the swaram is, you will forget the melody in that ragam. So your melody will go away. Your concentration is, oh, Trikala Tisrajati Triputa Talam. Your concentration is to get only that swaram, but not that melody. So amongst the 4 kavis, Ashu Kavi, Vistara Kavi, Vikata Kavi, Chitra Kavi was not treated that well. So Vedanta Desika says, in this sarga alone, I have used Chitra Kavyam, because I wanted to tell the world how imagery in poetry works. But I am not going to use this any further, because somebody in those days, a great critic, would have taken this work and would have thought, Enna ivar ore Chitra Kaviya padrar. They will close the book, right? So he cautions them, don't close my kavyam. With this I am stopping. I will continue with poetic beauty from now on. So don't worry. So he says, I am using this because I have to tell my audience in Egypt that Vedanta Desika can also compose Chitra Kavyam. Because tomorrow we'll ask, Chitra Kavyam ezhudirkara? Yes, I have done it. But I won't overdo it. Dino upma pota bore adichiro illaya. So you have to give it one, you have to give adai, you have to give idli. Between that you have to sandwich upma one day. So it is called Kudirayai Vaittu Aanayai Palakkuma Pole. This one, see, now I will leave it there. Now, Vedanta Desika uses this particular shloka to say that I am going to conclude. With that, even I conclude that Chitra Kavyam. Let us concentrate. Now the son has advised the father, we have to take all this towards Govardhanam. Yamahurantar bahirapyalakshyam yogeshwaram yogibhireva drishyam tamadrishringe samudikshamana gopam satam gopagana pranemuhu. So he says, when the Gopikas and the Gopas, they all listened to Krishna. See, that is one major attribute in the Gopas. They were not that well educated. They didn't have a school in Gokulam and Vrindavanam. They have never been to a school. But the amount of subservience and love that they showcase towards Krishna is unimaginable. See, imagine in a household, you have been doing something. Suddenly a 6-year-old boy comes and offers some suggestion. Ippadi pannada. What will be our immediate reaction? Any human's reaction? I know. I know. Just stay quiet. Will you be in your limits? This is how we say, correct? So we don't like anybody giving us suggestions. Immaterial, though we may say we are very liberal, we are open to feedback, we don't like suggestions. That is the whole thing. If you ask in any house, eppadi irundhathu, they will ask, eppadi irundhathu saapadu. We may be thinking they want a critical feedback. But they don't want a feedback. They want that line, romba nanna irundhathu. Isn't that the human mentality? எப்படி இருந்ததுன்னு கேட்டால் இதில் கொஞ்சம் உப்பு துளி கம்மி, அதை இன்னும் கூட கொஞ்சம் அரைச்சிருக்கலாம், அதில் ஒரு துளி கொஞ்சம் குறைஞ்சுடுத்து, அதில் கொஞ்சம் ஒட்டி, இது ஏதாவது ஒன்று சொல்ல வேண்டியது. ஸோ யூ ஷுட் see their face. Just try this once at your own risk. Okay, if someone offers you some food, they ask you how it is. Try doing this. இதில் கொஞ்சம் உப்பு கம்மி, அதில் you see how their face changes. And be ready for any reaction after that. Okay, you may be even thrown out. Okay, you should be ready. Protect yourself. Go with all kavacham, kundalam. You see, nobody likes feedback, but we act as if we are all very well. Say anything. How is it? But then the true manushya buddhi will come out. Right now, when Krishna said, little boy, he says, don't do Utsavam for Indra. What should the father have said? Po, ulla po. Amma kutrika, go inside. This is how he said. Immediately they said, Krishna says, don't worship Indra, worship Govardhanam. Okay. This is the differentiating factor between Gopas and us. If we were in that position, instead of Nanda Gopa, we would have said, Ullapo, Ullepo. Right? We would have said. But they didn't do this to Krishna because they were also obedient towards Krishna. That is why, despite having not gone to school, despite not having a great lineage, who is their father, forefather, we don't know. But they were so attached to Krishna. That is why even today we invoke the Gopas and Gopikas with so much of respect. Evam bhakti sakala bhuvane nekshita nashrutava kim shastraughaihi kimiha tapasa gopikabhyo namostu, says Bhattatri Narayaniyam. I pay my obeisances to Gopikastris. So immediately they listen. That is our differentiating. We would have asked hundreds of questions. Yen kekka vendum? I have the freedom of expression. I can exercise it. We will invoke Article 2, Amendment 2, Statement 2, Article 54F to exercise. That is why we have not got moksham as of now. We are still in Egypt. We don't know next Janma whether we will be traveling to Ethiopia, Sudan, Enga Poporomotella. The rest of the Nile cruise will complete in the next Janma. So that is our state. But immediately the Gopas, Gopikas listen. So they all left. So he says they all left towards the hill. Atop the hill, he says, Yamahurantar Bahirapyalaksham Yogeshwaram. The one who controls us from the within. They saw him stand atop the hill, it seems. They saw some blue boy. They couldn't clearly see who he was. He was like Deepatum, that lamppost at a very big height. So people couldn't spot him. Somewhere he was there. He was surveying the entire land. So they didn't know whether he was the Deepatun, lampstone, or survey stone. So he was there at the top. People from the bottom, the foothills were seeing somebody blue. Krishna is standing there. That was because these Gopas were extremely innocent. They believed that the hill will bless them only if it consumes their food. So Krishna, in order to make them believe, he being the Antaryami for Govardhanam, stood atop the hill and he consumed the food. Okay. So he says, Tamadri Shringe, Adri Shringe. What is Adri? Hill. Shringe, top. Adri Shringe, the hilltop. Samudikshamana Gopam Satam Gopaganaha Pranemuhu. Looking at that blue-hued boy standing at the top of the hill, the Gopas who were at the foothills put their Ayya Karupasami, they say, right? Because he is that Karupasami. If you go to Alagar Kovil, once a year, they will open that door and there will be 5 lakh people who are present for the 10-second beauty. It is believed that there is a Karuppu Sami which sits and protects. Now, Tirukudandai Andavan in those days used to state, what villagers worship as Karuppu Sami is nothing but Krishna. Why? Because he is Karuppu Sami. Krishna is the dark Lord. See, in Sanatana Dharma, the dark Lord is very good. Only in Rowling's book, the dark Lord is bad. For us, the dark Lord is good. So we don't have the trouble of Voldemort here. So he is the one who grants us moksham, dark Lord. Kannan ennum karundeivam, says Andal. Kaatchi palagi kidappenai. So Krishna stands atop the hill. Then he continues, Vidhana daksha vipinashrayaste tadanya sanradhana vita sangaha tamarchayama suradina sattva samprinanaihi shakramakhopanitaihi. Now the villagers who were extremely well versed, see, each kulam in Sanatana Dharma has its own sishtachara. For example, if you go to a Brahminical household, the way they do Shraddham will be different from the way a non-Brahminical household does. Both are correct. There is nothing called this is right and that is wrong. I visit so many tier 2, tier 3 towns. When I look at the bhakti in the people who are not Brahmanas, I envy them. They are the ones who hold the dharma intact. On the day that they have to pay homage to their ancestors, they will do something called padayal. Have you heard of it? They will put all the dishes, whatever they have to offer. No, that is their way. Because in the Brahminical Paddhati, we don't do that. In fact, there is a way of consuming also, there is a difference. Especially in the Deshika Vadakalai Sampradayam, we don't do pariseshanam to anything that has salt. So the Smartha Paddhati and the Tennacharya Sampradayam, Tengalai Sampradayam, there is one unanimity because what they do is they do pariseshanam for all the ingredients on the banana leaf. Because the belief is whatever we consume has to be offered to Bhagavan. But there is a Shastra Vakyam which says that whatever you consume for your Antaryami Jataragni has to be without salt. So when you offer fresh rice, hot rice and ghee, you should not add anything. You should not add sambar, parupu, nothing. It should be unsalted. That one you have to, after adding that ghee, imagine this looks like a Govardhana Parvatam. That white rice, if you eat in that proportion, then may Krishna protect you, because some of them will create a real Mount Everest. So then you have to add little ghee. See, you have to imagine this is Govardhanam. Now for Govardhanam, when they offered, Krishna, who is the Antaryami, consumed. So when the white hill like Kailasha is done, and then you offer ghee unsalted, you have to take that rice with your ring finger and your thumb like this. This is, when you do pariseshanam, this is the rule. Mama aathu olunga pandrara parunga. So you should not take it with the rest of your fingers. You have to use this. You have to take, it should be dipped in ghee. Dipped. You should dip it. You should not sprinkle ghee. Dip it in ghee. That's why I said Ishvaro Rakshatu. Now take that rice and you have to, I cannot tell that mantra openly. So you have to tell that mantra and then swallow it. When you swallow, you should not bite it. Remember, in Pariseshanam, that annam should not, it should not touch your teeth. It should go directly to your stomach because Antaryami is waiting there. That is why in the Deshika Sampradayam alone, there is one paddhati of asking, Innikku Pariseshanam unda. Because imagine you have made chapati. You cannot do Pariseshanam for chapati in Deshika Sampradayam because it has salt. So what they will do is, even if they make chapati, they will have little rice They will add that rice, ask you to do pariseshanam and then consume that variety. So this pariseshanam concept is akin to Govardhanodharanam. You're able to get the connection because whatever food was offered to Antaryami there, who is Krishna. Now he is the one, aham vaishvanaro bhutva praninam deham ashritaha prana apana samayuktaha pachamyannam chaturvidham, says Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. So that is the food that comes. Correct? Now, how did this, look at the beauty. Now after doing pariseshanam, I told you, in certain sampradayas, they will offer all varieties on a plantain leaf. Again, I am not telling this is the correct paddhati, don't take me that way. I am giving you a reason why Deshika Sampradayam does that. If Tennacharya and Smartha do it, they have a good reason. They say, whatever you eat is for Paramatma. Why should Paramatma not have sambar? So he needs sambar. So they say, so that is also correct. So don't take me otherwise, all paddhatis are correct. Now on the leaf, when the Gopas offered huge rice, it is Annakutotsavam. Remember, in Vaishnava Sampradayam, it is called Annakutotsavam. You have to bring varieties yearly once in every Agama-based Perumal temple. Have you seen Annakutotsavam? Oh, they will make as many, these days they make 32 varieties of sweets. And they offer before Bhagavan. In Sri Rangam, there is a slightly different paddhati. It's called Tirupavadai. Even in Tirumala Tirupati, they will make it as one rice. It will be a Kadamba Sadam. They will not keep these varieties separately. That they will offer, if you go to Tirumala Tirupati, visit the TTD museum there. Once you take your left and go inside the museum, you will see the silver Simhasanam on which every year Tirupavadai would be done. It will be a huge, somewhere around 180 kg silver vessel. It is a big one, out of which that Tirupavadai Utsavam will be done. It is called Annakutotsavam. Now Annam is offered to Shiva. See, generally, there is always a conflict. Whether we can take rice inside the Garbhagriham or not, it is a big dilemma. Because one section of the Smartas are very particular that rice cannot be taken inside. Because there is a, how do I explain this? Pattu. What is pattu in Tamil English? It's very tricky. Right? Pattu enna jollu, it's not 10. Right? Huh? Sticky. Huh? Cooked item is fine, but see, let's say you cook lady's finger, vendaka. You don't have to touch water for that. You have to touch only when you touch, after touching all of this, when you touch rice or curd, you'll have to touch. So it's a tricky thing, how to describe pattu. Okay, assume there is something called pattu. Okay. So I'm sorry, I'm not that good a speaker. I'm not able to explain pattu. Okay. So one section of Smartas believe that there will be pattu if you take rice. But Vaishnavas believe that in that Agama based temple, when it is offered as Bhagavat Prasadam, it is not pattu. So I remember one conversation that I had with one of my inspirations called Sundar Kumar Anna. He gives a lot of discourses. He's a giant. He's a towering personality. I always look up to him. And we have had some nice conversations. He's, 35 years older to me. But both of us, when we talk, you will think we are friends. That is the saulabhyam with which that Swami comes. So way back in 2009, while I was in Bombay, he was delivering Mahabharata lectures in Astika Samajam, Matunga. So I went there. And at the end of the lecture, in the temple, they gave us prasadam in a donnai. Donnai is a cup, a leaf cup, an organic, handcrafted cup that is biodegradable. Right? That is donnai. So they gave us prasadam. So I didn't consume that prasadam because I had 2 or 3 doubts. So I wanted to ask Sundar Kumar Swami about this. So I followed him up to that floor where he was residing. So as I was entering, he said, see, you eat that and come. I said, Swami, I'll eat it later. Ille. எங்களுக்கு அது 10, உங்களுக்கு அது 10 இல்லை. So, in Vaishnava Sampradayam, though it is rice, it is consumed as prasadam. So, there is no concept of 10. But in Smartas, even if it is prasadam, it is 10.